Of all liberation struggles and the movements that seek a world of justice, equality, and peace, that seek to dismantle the United States, I hope you seek to dismantle the United States. And if that isn't your politics, okay? I speak as if everybody has this commitment. And the thing is that you should listen to Indigenous people when they're telling you that this is the goal. And that not only is this the goal, but this is the starting point. Because I think Nick articulated this very clearly. That decolonization is the only thing that is going to save us as a species, is the only thing that's going to save us as a planet. And everyone should just be on board with it, no questions asked. And I say this sometimes on the podcast, our Red Nation podcast, on the co-host of Red Power Hour. You know, like, of the most oppressed ass people in Turtle Island, Indigenous women are like on the top of that fucking list, okay? And incarcerated at higher numbers, murdered at higher numbers, missing at higher numbers, higher levels of rape and all kinds of sexual violence and sexual harassment. I mean, Indigenous women struggle so hard under the settler regime that is the United States and the way that heteropatriarchy ties so closely into that. And if an Indigenous woman is telling you that decolonization is the solution, and also that there is real hope and that Palestine offers us, we said this in the speech, Palestine is the alternative path for Native nations. And this is because we understand Palestine and the liberation of Palestine is the tip of the spear, right? It is a righteous struggle, and it is so powerful that it has literally, in 60 days, changed the entire world. The entire world has changed. I knew it the moment that it happened, then nothing, and I mean nothing, for colonizers over any of the good, humble people of the earth would be the same ever again. And we need to lean into that. Lean into the fact that colonizers are scared. Lean in to scaring them and making them feel uncomfortable, right? It is because we have power.
We've shown the world how to protect democracy and take care of our neighbors. And we are going to continue to stand up for accountability, for justice, for change. And when people ask me, what can we do? Well, you do that. You continue to stand up. When people outside our state, what can we do to help Minnesota? Well, now, with ICE agents leading, and you want to wait till the weather warms up just a little, you can come and visit our great state. You can fill up those hotel rooms that were taken over by ICE agents and go visit incredible places in our state where Prince got his start. You can go to First Avenue. You can go to the Mall of America. You can go up north or down south in Minnesota and see the incredible bike trails and beautiful places and Lake Superior, the most superior lake of them all. So that's what we want you to do. We want you to come to our state and visit. We want you to invest in our state. We want you to start businesses in our state. We want you to send your kids to school in our state. We want people to come and work in our state because we have shown the country and the world what we are all about.
Well, there's no drawdown yet. Coke and I went to Savage this morning. I was got parked outside the house for an hour, got my plates. He waved and smiled at us, but then when we parked behind him, he left. And we got word from some of the neighbors that he just came back about 15 minutes ago. So we're staked out. We are staked out here in Savage. And I'm going to stay on until they leave.
Back in Minneapolis, hearing Operation Metro Surge will soon come to a conclusion. That's news that a lot of people have looked forward to because this enforcement, not the operation, just the enforcement of it, has been traumatic. And trauma is something that we're going to have to do next as a community and people to move forward. My work sent out an email today saying that we would have more mental health sessions available to us, which is awesome. But everybody is going to need some help here. And I just pray that we can give each other the grace and kindness as we move forward and remember that some people have gone through such significant trauma they've been hiding. Legal American citizens.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show here on InfoWars Sunday Night Live. I'm your host, Chris White. We're in Belly of the Beast, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Oh, what can we say? Minnesota, ground zero once again. Belly of the Beast, cultural epicenter for American politics. And we cannot concede any ground whatsoever. I'm seeing reports that Governor Hochul in New York City now saying that the city or state of New York will not comply with ICE operations. Shocker. Shocker that more Democrats in more of these states and cities refuse to cooperate with ICE. And look, I know the Epstein files are the huge news. Don't get me wrong. I think President Trump did a brilliant job and sprung a trap here on the Democrats is what it would appear. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more as we get through the hours. As we get to the 2 hours. You got me for 2 hours. But I want everybody to understand that if we don't have a border, we don't have a country. There can be zero compromise on the border. There can be zero compromise on immigration enforcement. We've already started to compromise a little bit. You know, we're wavering. We wavered here in Minnesota. I saw President Trump say that he was going to, start to scale back here in Minnesota. And as you see there from the cold open, our current senator running to be the next governor of Minnesota, Amy Klobuchar, who is about neck deep in the fraud herself. I mean, again, back in 2003, Amy Klobuchar prosecuted a statewide daycare fraud case in the Hmong community. There's no way you can tell me she's been a United States senator, former district attorney for 20 plus years, and she had no idea where to point Governor Tim Walz and the rest of the state elected officials to find this fraud. You just can't convince me that that's a real thing. Now she's running to be our governor. And is it just me, or does she have one of the most shaky and cracky voices that you've ever heard? Not only is her disposition, unbearably liberal, but her voice doesn't sound too good. I don't know how her health is doing. I don't say that jokingly or to poke fun at her because she may have a real health condition, and that's a sad and unfortunate thing. But these are the types of things that used to come into play when you were running to be an elected official. Just little things like that. Do you pass the sniff test? Can you stand there before the American people and present your ideas, present your points, present whatever it is that you wanted to talk about with some strength and conviction? Now, on our side, we have people, RFK Jr. is a great example. He's, obviously has issues with his voice and whatnot, but he speaks so much truth. He speaks so much truth. You can look past any of the issues with his voice or whatever the case may be. Plus, I mean, his spit is an ox. For a 60-plus-year-old man, RFK Jr. is a tank. He's a tank. He's what this country needs more of. Give me more 60-plus-year-olds like RFK Jr., and I think we'll be in good shape. Amy Klobuchar, not so much. Not so much. And it's just, this country is being taken down by women. We have to understand. And we have to be comfortable saying it. Not all women. There are plenty of great women out there in our nation. Plenty of women who love this country. Plenty of women who have the right values and beliefs. But overall, we have a crisis of femininity that I do believe stems from a failure of masculinity. We've neutered our nation. We've neutered our culture. Even the immigration argument. You think of the Tarzan motif. It's like a couple of European adventurers or travelers get lost in the jungle and they have a little boy there up in their treehouse where they're doing, wilderness conservation, observation, whatever they're doing there. I don't necessarily remember the story of Tarzan that well, but something to that effect. Okay? And the two parents die in a storm, or in some versions of Tarzan, I guess they were killed by the wild. They were killed by the leopard in some versions of the story. And the gorilla mom comes across little Tarzan, and out of her maternal instinct, she wants to take little Tarzan in. Now we all look at that, in cartoon and in story and go, "Aw, how sweet, how noble of the gorillas to take in this little human boy. How noble." Sure, in theory, in concept. In a one-off situation, you take in the stranger. It's even when they use the Christian scripture as a way to justify unfettered illegal immigration. Yes, you are supposed to treat your neighbors and strangers with kindness. An eventual neighbor that strays on into your town or your city or your state or your country, yes, we should try and treat them with kindness, with hospitality. Now, hospitality has a limit. It has a shelf life. If we want to be hospitable to you, that doesn't mean you get to stay here forever. So that's lost in translation as well. But, even the maternal instinct of the Tarzan mother, it's not how it really works. It's not how it works in the real world. Every once in a while, you'll get a dominant predator animal who takes on a little animal and keeps them as a friend or a mate. Not a romantic mate, but, a friend, a traveling partner. You see that? Certain instances in the animal kingdom. Usually, even that mama gorilla is going to tear that little kid limb from limb. Gruesome as it may sound, that's the way the world works. That's the way nature works. I don't know. I think we've just gone overboard with this. We have empathomania, where we're manic with empathy, suicidal empathy. Everybody can come live in our country. Amy, Hochul, Mayor Johnson, Pritzker. Not to mention, you have the audacity to suggest that we're fascists for trying to uphold the border, when in reality, there's no greater example of fascism in recent American history than the unprecedented authoritarianism that we saw when it came to vaccine mandates. And I think our culture, our country moves so fast from one story to the next. Even the Epstein thing, and I know, we're going to talk about it later on. And, it is what we all thought it was. It is exactly what we all thought it was. A man who was obviously central to a number of intelligence operations spread across the entire world. And as such, in a way, it's like a Russian doll. There is no bottom to the pit. There's all the information. They can say, yes, the unredacted files are coming out. Got it. And as far as we know, and I'm not saying that what Bondi and President Trump are saying isn't true, but what I am saying is, when you get involved with the intelligence community, there are things that we just will not know. There are some things that we just will never know when it comes to this Epstein situation. We know what we see, and what we see, we should be able to prosecute on. There should be indictments. There should be arrests, for sure. If you were involved in anything sexual with an underage person, I don't care if it was in this country or anywhere in the world. I guess depending on what the rest of the world and their country's laws are. But in this country, if you're an American citizen and you were involved in underage sexual torture or even trafficking, you're going to be going to jail, or you should be going to jail. Will that happen? I'm not in charge. I'm not in charge. We would hang some of these people if I was in charge, and they say that's what makes me unelectable. So that's too extreme. We can't be hanging people. No public hanging. Come on, Royce, what are you saying? Excuse me. Some public hangings may be in order. It's like this whole Guthrie situation. And I haven't even checked back in. Did they find the guy who kidnapped the Guthrie mom? I don't know. But when they do, they should hang him. You kidnap an 84-year-old woman and you hold her ransom, they should hang you publicly. It'd be a great spectacle. We should charge people admission. We should charge a small extra tax. Oh, it'd be a great business for this country. You want to talk about getting rid of property taxes? Here's how you can get rid of property taxes. All of the psychopaths from California to New York, the clear psychopaths. Obviously. The folks who say, yeah, I did. I killed all 3 kids and I cut their heads off. Yeah, those type of people, and there are much more than you would imagine. All of them public executions. And the pay-per-view money that you would make, we could do some good with, for sure. We could fix some potholes. But hey, maybe that's just radical. Maybe, again, maybe I'm a Christo-fascist or whatever they call you. But I know one thing, what do you call those people? What do you call the people who are in these files, joking about child sexual torture videos? What do you call those people? So I call them demonic. I don't know what the secular humanists would call them. Maybe they still use the term evil, but I would call them demonic. We need a good exercising in this country. But see, it's not lost on me that the most demonic individuals, the people who manifest the most damage that you could call demonic, are not alone in their efforts. They're not individuals who came up with these things all by themselves. They've been unleashed on you. They've been unleashed on you through the guise of maternal instinct. Oh, this is Mother Earth. We're all one people. We're all one race. Sure. Yeah, theoretically, okay? We're not all the same. And that's what I want to leave you with, if nothing else, for my time hosting the show. I want to keep hosting every Sunday until Alex says otherwise. I'm very appreciative. Alex Jones is the OG. I still, you people in the comments who have the audacity to question Alex, it's just like, where do you get off? But I get it. It's not just the Democrats or the liberals or the leftists or the Marxists or the communists or whoever. It's not just them. It's all of us. All of us have a certain jerk off, a certain level of jerk off, do nothing, complain to our mentality. It's in our culture. It's seeped into our culture. It's kind of an epidemic of people having more opinions than they have power. I don't mean corrupt tyrannical power. I mean like power manifested in your own life because you're confident in the things that you've trained and the things that you've done and the things that you've built and the way that you think and the way that your thoughts are formulated. Power, real power. We have more opinions than we have power. And that's how you could abnegate your citizenship and give over your freedom to a broadly overreaching federal government worldwide, which is why the Republican Party is actually the right philosophical landing spot for our American political culture. Republicanism, you are guaranteed a Republican form of government, but Republicanism as a philosophy, it emphasizes the importance of the individual. The individual is important. The individual is paramount to the fabric of a society. And no amount of collectivism or egalitarianism or authoritarian and totalitarian communist government can replace the importance of strong individuals, especially as it pertains to the outcome for the collective. And you just get the sense that this maternal instinct that we have going is ruining our country, folks. And you can't even say it. You can barely say it. And they give, they call it the manosphere or the bro something. I'm not even, I'm just not enmeshed enough in the digital world to know all of the terms. But the Andrew Tates and those types of people, they give them such a raw deal, such a hard time. And it's a lot. I'm telling you, as honest as I can be, it's a lot of you Christians. A lot of you Protestant Christians have a serious problem with women. And I mean, like, you have a problem with getting run over. You have a soft spot for women that is not rooted in reality or logic. Certainly is not rooted in survival or patriotism or civic duty. It's rooted in the same desire across the aisle to have romance, companionship, to get laid, Maybe it's to stay married. Maybe you don't want to have to go through a divorce because you know the divorce courts and the family and marriage courts are going to hammer you. I don't know what it is, but I see it sort of culture-wide. We have a crisis with this maternal instinct, and it's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's out of control. So bad that it's almost unbelievable to me that any substrate of America's population would even believe in an idea like there's no such thing as illegal and stolen land. I mean, the idea itself is a non-starter. It really is. It's a non-starter. But it surely has gotten started. You saw what the indigenous woman said there in the beginning. She called for the dismantling of the United States. Excuse me, Miss Indian girl. How about you take you and whoever else you think agrees with you, whoever else actually may agree with you, how about you guys get together and you go to another country? If America's treated you so poorly, if it's so bad here for you, on some of these native reservations like here in Minnesota, God bless them, they got more money than Midas. Some of them getting paid $90,000, $100,000 a month. A month. I used to date a girl who lived on the res and she was half native. She wasn't even full native. She was a mixed girl, mixed with native. She lived on the res and she was getting $50,000, $60,000 a month. If it's so bad for you, feel free to leave. But do not think under any circumstances are you going to sell us some felonious sob story about the history of this country that would justify the dismantling of our country today. That, again, is a non-starter. A lot of non-starters out there. Anybody who calls for the dismantling of this country, of the United States of America, you call for the dismantling of our country, I have to say, with no equivocations, F you. F you. Especially you white liberal women. I mean, what do you have to complain about? You're living off the fat of the country. You're living off the fat of the land. What do you have to complain about? You have a completely warped economy that's become, and this is a real sign of our country. I mean, it wasn't by accident that we shipped the manufacturing and the hard manual labor jobs to another country. That was a sign of our softness there. We didn't like a hard day's work. We didn't value a hard day's work. A decision made by soft men to fatten their pockets, to widen their margins. And what you get? You got a culture that is financialized. You got an economy that's financialized, a service-based economy, and an economy that's basically protected and based on the ability to remote control missiles and other munitions and ordnance. Not that we shouldn't use drones. Not that we shouldn't be on the cutting edge of military technology. I'm not saying any of that. But what I'm saying is there is an impetus. There does seem to be an impulse, a propensity toward softer and softer versions of manhood. Softer and softer, weaker and weaker versions of what it means to be a man. And I just can't help but think, God, we're going to get crushed by our enemies if we keep going this way. We might not even get crushed by our enemies. Again, China's just waiting for us to collapse. People have to understand, China, nation ruled by engineers. America, a nation ruled by lawyers. Ruled by engineers versus ruled by lawyers. We have an overly litigious country. That's why Alex Jones was sued to the tune of $1.5 billion, if it's not more by now, because he spoke his First Amendment opinion. That's a country that's overly litigious. Same thing with Mike Lindell. Same exact thing. Same thing with President Trump. $90 million. E. Jean Carroll. Another good example of a hyper-effeminized country. A feminized country. Eunuchs. And here's the real herald. The real herald. And I'm going to talk more about some of the things in a moment, but I come just to talk to you real. This country is in need of just a real-time, real talk conversation about the way that things really are. Here's another example of the crisis of masculinity, the failure of masculinity, and the crisis of femininity. E. Jean Carroll. I always go back to the Me Too thing because, again, we hop from story to story, from crisis to crisis, and sometimes we lose sight of the plot. We lose sight of the nuts and bolts, what really matters, the most important things, what's really crushing our society. The entire Me Too movement is one cultural shift to say any man who's heterosexual, which the indigenous girl also said in the beginning in the cold open there, she said the heteropatriarchy. What the hell is the heteropatriarchy? Any straight guy who makes to a position of power, that's heterosexual. And the canary in the coal mine of the entire political landscape and culture war that we're in is that the feminist movement, the radical feminist movement, encourages trans women. They like seeing men dress up like women. They love they pretend that they're friendly. They pretend that it's all a wink and nod. Oh, hey, girl, I had another girlfriend. I can just treat you like one of the girls. No. It's a humiliation ritual. It's sadistic. They like seeing men dress up as women. They get off on it. They get off on turning a man into a woman. So in China, they just banned it. The whole thing. No. We're not going to play this game. We're not going to play this game. We love some communism and we love some Marxism, but we're not going to play this game because we got a war to fight in the future. And they're not kidding around about it. I think we are. And I'd love to see, when doomsday hits and the war really breaks out, the bullets get to flying, I can't wait to see what some of these yuppie white liberals do in those moments. You're watching InfoWars, Sunday Night Live, the Alex Jones Show. I'm your guest host, Royce White. I'm in the belly of the beast. We're talking culture war. We're going to talk a little bit about Epstein. I want to hone in on this China versus America because I think it is maybe the most important issue. Be right back in a moment. Stay tuned. Look, this entire Epstein deal. You know what? I watched yesterday, and you guys may have mixed opinions about this guy. You guys may have mixed opinions about this man, but Eric Weinstein, one of the more interesting people in our recent chapter of American history. Very interesting individual. I know him personally, spoken to him on the phone a few times. He and I and Brett exchanged some posts and things like that on X a while back, but a very smart individual. Has my respect in a lot of ways. It's not because I agree with all his opinions, not because I agree with his political disposition, but because I agree or I admire the willingness to think critically, and even more so the willingness to go off script in an interview. There's a conversation that we expect to take place, a sequential nature that we expect the conversation to travel. And Eric would just go completely off script, much like Alex and some of the other people that I admire. But anyway, I bring Eric Weinstein up to say, nominally a Democrat. Got fed up with the establishment the same way we all did. And if anybody gets a chance, they should go and listen to Eric Weinstein talk about Jeffrey Epstein and Jeffrey Epstein's involvement with the Harvard Math Department and being attached to Eric's PhD work. Gripping stuff. I bring that up to say, who knows how deep this Epstein rabbit hole goes? I look at the whole thing and I think to myself, wow, there is an example of the highest level of intelligence, corruption, maybe in the history of our entire country. But then I don't even let myself go to that place because I can only imagine if Jeffrey Epstein is the cat that they let slip out of the bag. Imagine how dark things really get. We couldn't even imagine. Most of us couldn't even imagine. Alex Jones has been saying it to you for years and years and years. People kind of listen to it as entertainment and go, wow, that's true. It's really messed up. Well, it's all coming true. It's all being proven true. It's really messed up out there, folks. It's a dark world out there. The reason I brought up Eric is, again, the buried leads. Eric said something in this interview I was watching the other day about the government not allowing mathematicians, physicians, to talk about science or math in an international context or even publicly, as if it's a matter of national security and could be considered treason by capital punishment. And I just paused for a moment and I thought to myself, wow, huge issues for us to tackle as a country. Huge issues for us to tackle as a country. Unbelievable issues for us to tackle as a species. What's at the root of it all? Is it money? Is it power? Those things are great motivators, no doubt. It's really about cowardice. Cowardice. That's what's at the root of our issues. To tie back into the neutering of American culture, the real crisis in this country is cowardice, fear. Fear of being wrong, fear of what people may think about you, fear of losing your status, fear of losing your money, fear of dying, fear of isolation, fear of loneliness. At some point in here, we have to get back to the fundamentals. We have to get back to the basics, first principles. What has gone wrong in this country? We were never supposed to let these women lead. And half of you, the problem is half of you men out there can't even say it. If you're out there right now in the country and you just happen to like InfoWars and you're listening to it, you're married, you're probably listening to it in your basement on your headphones. Because you know, even if you weren't, and your girl is, your wife is sitting there listening with you, the hair just stood up on the back of your neck and you look out of the corner of your eyes to see how she reacted to me saying, we should have never let these women lead. Because women don't usually lead with logic, they lead with emotion. We know that, they know that, they know that. That's why a lot of your ultra left-leaning liberal white women who have the perfect, sensitive, acculturated, woke boyfriend with the man bun usually have some hulking behemoth of a man like me on the side. President Trump expressed that. He made a great joke in the last presidential cycle. He said, white dudes for Harris and all their girlfriends and their boyfriends are going to be voting for me. It was a joke, but there's a lot of truth in most humor. Our whole society has become like this. And sure, I'm not making a comment about your sexual fetishes or whatever your romantic things are you do on the weekends, how you and your girlfriend have it set up, that's your business. But it's gotten so out of control that it's now seeped into our institutions. It's become a matter of practice. It's a practical matter to neuter the men. We neuter the men. We tell them that to be a man is unacceptable. Here's a great example, or another great example. This weekend is All-Star Weekend. And then the Super Bowl, I guess, would probably be another good example. But it's All-Star Weekend, and it's always a huge social gathering of A-list celebrities. And none of them are willing to acknowledge the reason they're even at the event in the first place is because some hyper-masculine men, now they're trying to emasculate them too by putting them in dresses and making it seem like that's normal. But hyper-masculine men, apex competitors, reach the top of the athletic hierarchy through cutthroat and grueling competition where there are no participation medals. Sorry, Susie, Kylie, Kendall, Kim, Courtney. Sorry, but if it wasn't for the unequal distribution of talent and skill and size, an unfairness, a fundamental unfairness to human existence, you wouldn't be able to show up to the All-Star game and try and figure out what the next guy is you're going to ride into the ground while you reap the benefits of the gossip columns. You wouldn't have that option. Everybody follow me out there? Am I making sense? You understand how this is what we have to, even the Epstein thing, and I know the Epstein thing, I can't make heads or tails of some of this stuff. I just can't. It's hard. I see the list. It's like Chris Tucker flying around with Epstein. I don't know what to make of that. Do I think Chris Tucker was messing with underage girls? I wouldn't think so, but I don't know. I don't know what any of these people are capable of, really. I see them on television. They're like a figment of your imagination for the most part. I don't know what these people are up to. I do know one thing, that Jeffrey Epstein, it would appear, was constructed to touch as many people as he possibly could so that we end up in a situation just like this, where in his death, where he couldn't clarify things, or Ghislaine Maxwell, or whatever other spooky stuff is going on in this intelligence operation, everybody's pointing at each other like a Spider-Man meme. Meanwhile, your elections still aren't secure, people. And as interested as I am in Jeffrey Epstein and how sick and twisted this international satanic cult is, I am much more interested in our elections being secure. Much more interested. Why? I'll tell you this. If we don't win, it's not going to be some faceless child, some faceless young woman that you don't know who becomes a part of the sexual predation. It's going to be your child. It's going to be your child. And the Epstein-esque philosophy, the Epstein-esque perversion is already in your public schools. This is why I said, as much as I want to find out about Epstein, one thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to sit here and take any of the pontification from any Democrats about Jeffrey Epstein. Let me talk to the trad Catholics. If I want to get a moral opinion about the matter, let's talk to some people that actually want to hold the sexual morality of our society. Let me go talk to some trad Catholics about Epstein. I'll be taking their moral opinions on the matter. But you Democrats don't have a damn leg to stand on. Not only is it obvious that you weren't interested in this when the Democrats were in power because so many Democrats were implicated, but even furthermore, you have constantly tried to smuggle in your minor attracted people psychological framework right there into the schools. So sorry if I think your Epstein outrage is the same as all your other outrage. Sorry if I'm not biting on that bait. Yeah, you can say you want to find out about Epstein and you like the big. I just don't believe you. I don't believe you because I don't believe you about anything else. I just don't believe you. And as they say, it's hard for a zebra to change its stripes. Very hard for a zebra to change its stripes. You Democrats have built a platform online. And as far as that goes, a lot of you Republicans have built a platform online too. And by God, if there was a way for me to run as an independent and have any legitimate chance of winning, I would do it in a heartbeat because you Republicans make me sick. Not all Republicans. I don't mean the Republican people. I don't mean the deplorables. I don't mean the everyman out there who works a job and is a part of the broad working class and just trying to make ends meet, getting crushed by the Fed. I'm not talking about you. You don't make me sick. But this Republican establishment, my God, what have we done? What have we conserved? What have we conserved? And we're so weak. We are so weak. I think they just showed up on the screen there. Went to a Republican Party convention this past Saturday, and it was in Prior Lake. And I told them, if you people are weak enough to let the cultural epicenter of American politics watch the conservative movement run back towards the left, then you're the problem. There can be no movement back towards the left. Any concession of a movement back toward the left is going right back toward the insanity. We're the just right. We have to stand firm, hold the line. We're not the extreme right. We're not far right. We're not alt right. We're not fringe right. We're just right. We're just right. Most of the stuff that we had conspiracy theories about just ended up being genuine conspiracies. And after I was done giving a room full of Republicans a tongue lashing about Michelle Tafoya, again, pro-choice Michelle Tafoya, raised $600,000 in the opening week of her campaign, and the NRSC loves her. Of course, the people who won't pass the SAVE Act love them, a pro-choice woman who used to be a sideline reporter. I mean, it's like a wet dream for a rhino. It's like a rhino wet dream. It's the rhino archetype. If you get a bunch of soft-bellied, weak Republican men in a room, Tim Scott, Mitch McConnell, Steve Daines, Lindsey Graham, up and down the line, let's just, pick one. It doesn't matter. I don't have to get specific. Pick one. And you said, what would your perfect prototype be for a candidate? They would say, we want a woman who was a sideline reporter. So she's really a shell, because, again, no sideline reporter lasts in a league or an organization, a place like the NFL, unless they say absolutely nothing controversial. So she's a shell, and she can be controlled and molded. She'll take the money. And just as a slap in the face to the entire Christian base, she's pro-choice in the cultural epicenter of American politics at one of the most pivotal moments of our nation's history. When I got done giving the Republicans there in Prior Lake a firm pep talk about this political season, I was driving back home, and I came past an intersectional corner, and there were a bunch of communists out there with their signs. They were doing the old protest thing. I said, drop me off. Drop me off right here, right now. About 40 of them, 50 of them. I got out, my MAGA hat. Bring the picture back up, if you can, there in the studio. I got out with my MAGA hat, and I walked right up to them. I walked up and down the street, around the corner, said, you people are communists. We know exactly who you are. We know exactly what you're up to. Where were your protests when Joe Biden let in 15 million illegal immigrants? Where were your protests when an illegal foreign invader raped and murdered a young black woman and dumped her body on the side of the highway? Where were your protests then? Crickets. Oh, Royce is unhinged. There was a Facebook post. This really tells you that we can't negotiate with these people. A man who was filming, there were about 4 or 5 people that brought their cell phones out and filmed it as if that was going to make me stop. Then they called the police. The police showed up and said, yeah, well, we can't really do anything. He's allowed to counter protest. And there was this one guy, he was a lawyer, said he was a lawyer, and he had his army fatigue pants on. I guess it's supposed to impress me that he served this country. No longer impresses me. Just like there are no more party lines. There's no such thing as the right. There are just patriots and nationalists and globalists, people who believe in having a country, and people who don't. I don't care about your army fatigues, dude. I don't care. That doesn't impress me. There are plenty of people who serve this country who don't love this country, who don't have this country's best interest at heart. Look at General Milley. We go on down the list. There are plenty of people who serve this country who ended up being traitors in the end. Now, the use of the espionage title, Edward Snowden, I don't think that he was a traitor. I'm just saying, there's a lot of wiggle room there. But all in all, there are people who serve this country who genuinely mean this country harm, increasingly. And so for this lawyer, he's filming, and he calls the cops, and he says, you don't have a right to harass us. That's what he told me. Walked up to the cop, and the cop arrived on the scene. I walked right up to the cop. No problem at all. Not afraid of the cops. Why do I need to be afraid of the cops? I'm an American citizen. I'm an American citizen with rights. None of my rights. I have a right to counter-protest these communists. And every time I get a chance, from here until Election Day, I'm going to be protesting and counter-protesting you communists every single opportunity I get. Tells the cop, he says, this man has a right to counter-protest, but he doesn't have a right to do it this close to us. I mean, the entitlement of these people is astounding. So let me get this right. Because I'm wearing a MAGA hat, and I think differently than you do, I don't have a right to walk closely to your protest, to voice my opinions. But you all have the right to impede federal law enforcement during immigration enforcement operations. This is how detached from reality they are. And they were saying Alex Prade's name, and I just said to him, hey, listen, you guys are all trans activists. That's what you are. You're communists and you're trans activists. This has nothing to do with Alex Prade, Renee Good. It has nothing to do with black people. It has nothing to do with immigrants. It has nothing to do with women's rights. And that's what we have to parse through that like Excalibur. We have to just pierce right through that veil. And I think they hang us up with that all. They hang us up with the emotional heartstrings at every issue. That's what the entire identity politics monopoly is meant to do. It's meant to create a system of tranches where you get hung up in the emotional heartstrings at each tranche about something or another. I got a friend or a family member or an old teammate or colleague that was gay, or their daughter was gay, or the guy who works on my yard is an immigrant, or my daughter has a child by a man who's black, or hey, I'm married to a woman, so we got to consider women's liberation. It's just meant to bog you down in illogic. They don't care about any of those groups of people. And as soon as that becomes the platform of the Republican Party and the conservative movement, we're going to make some headway. It's going to take a while, but we're going to make some headway. But we have trouble doing it. You know why we have trouble doing it? You know why we can't just pierce through the thin veil? And it truly is a thin veil because you can see all the contradiction. The reason we can't just pierce right through the thin veil of identity politics and say to the American people, none of these identity groups are your real interest. It's because Israel. Oh boy. People may not like that. Yes, I said it here on Alex Jones, Sunday Night Live, InfoWars. The reason we cannot pierce through the thin veil of identity politics in our political movement is because of Israel. People have to say, what does that do with Israel? Israel is the number one identity politic on the right. It's just what it is. It's what it is. I don't know how else to say it to you. How else do you want me to say it to you? How else do you want me to put it. That's what it is. Israel is the number one identity politic on the right. You say 1,000 different reasons why. Doesn't really matter why. The point is, it is the number one identity politic on the right. It just blows my mind that so many Christians in this country didn't cast a ballot in the 2024 election. 33 million Christians did not vote in the 2024 presidential election. Yet they have complaints about how far this country is from Christ and the Scripture, sola scriptura. And yet Israel's politics are more important to you than America's. You're very interested in, intimately interested in Israel's politics. If another country's politics are more important than your own, that would make you a cuck. I'll say it again, little baby ears in the back. If another country's politics are more important than your own, that makes you a cuck. You're a cuck citizen. You've been cucked in your civic duty. I love Israel. Any Christian loves Israel. You can't deny the biblical significance of Israel, the Holy Land. Hell, make the Middle East Christian again. That would solve a lot of problems. Make the Middle East Christian again. Oh, that's dangerous. Oh, not gonna get any money from APEC saying stuff like that. Good. I don't want your money. I don't want your money. I don't want your approval. I told the NBA owners who are predominantly Jewish that 13 years ago. They brought me in the back room and said, yeah, just go along with the get along and we'll make all your wildest dreams come true. I don't think our dreams are the same. Sorry. I dream in color. Our dreams aren't the same. In fact, my dreams are in red, white, and blue. We don't dream the same. We don't dream the same dreams. So it's probably not likely that you can help me see mine come to fruition. You're watching the Alex Jones Show here on Sunday Night Live. InfoWars. I'm your guest host, Russ White. Here in the belly of the beast, Minneapolis, Minnesota. We'll be right back in a moment. Stay tuned. Just talking to you. On my way out, you see I'm a little dressed up. I usually not dressed up, but I did just get a good set of suits here. I don't know. The more they try and stick men in these bell-bottom hybrid dresses and high platform shoes, the more and more I always love suits and menswear, and I have worn suits a lot in my life. I got into politics. One, some of these political events and political outings can be a little dangerous. Plus, I like to invade a communist protest every now and then. So suits not really great attire for that type of thing. And even more so, I can't stand the archetype of a politician in a suit telling you to give them their vote, and they got the little lapel pin and the silk tie and silk stockings. It's all very permanent political class, over-credentialized, over-educated, under-intelligent, more information with not enough wisdom that got us in the crisis. I'm gonna start wearing a suit a little more. Point is, tangent, side tangent. I'm on my way to a little romantic evening. Okay, but I wouldn't miss Alex Jones for anything. Valentine's Day weekend, on my way to a little romantic evening, so I'm a little dressed up. I'm just talking to you. I'm just talking to you this weekend. If we continue to let women lead this country, it will collapse. It will collapse. The future of this nation rests upon the edge of a blade. We are so close. We are so close to the point of no return. And there are men now, described in Scripture, the watchmen, who are on the tower sounding the alarm for a number of different reasons. And we can slice the atom a million different ways. We can bring up a million different problems. What is the common denominator? The common denominator is men have been too weak to stand up to these women. That's the common denominator. Even the men who, and it's not even direct. It's like subconscious. Subconsciously, men realize that they're going to have a better chance in the romantic marketplace if they have a liberal point of view, or if at least they pretend they have a liberal point of view front-facing in the public on social media. And so we get a warped sense of reality because our reality is going digital. In a world that's going digital and everybody's trying to fake it, how do you know what's real and what's not? Especially with the introduction of AI getting as good as it is, we are almost to the point of no return. The men who stand up to say, wait a second. Maybe we shouldn't go down that dark alley. That alley's a little dark, it's a little sketchy. I see some shadowy figures down there in that alley. Maybe untrustworthy, maybe a little dangerous down there. Not to make it, but as a motif, the white girl in the horror movie always trips and falls. She always walks right into the killer's lap. I never even watch horror movies. They're frustrating. They're not realistic. Black people, we never liked. I don't know. I never liked horror movies. You ever hear the stereotype about black people and with horror movies? It's like a black person wouldn't walk down that dark alley. We're walking past that alley and we take one look at it and we go, we'll walk around. We'll go 3 more blocks before we have. If something is down that alley, if the address, the place we're going is actually down that alley, then I guess I'm just not gonna make it. But we're not going. I don't know. The white liberal woman it's a perfect example. It's like, just come live in our country during rapists. Sure. I mean, why not? And again, I'm here to just tell you what it really is. We can circle wagons. We can get real granular about the details. Take it. I don't want to be your therapist. I don't want to be your coach, your life coach. Let me be your uncle. I think the 33-year-olds now, they refer to as uncle. 30 seems young to me. Maybe that's because I always hung out with boomers, but let me be your uncle. You men are chasing these women, and it's out of control. It's completely and utterly out of control. There's nothing wrong with a great woman. There's nothing wrong with having fun with women. There's nothing wrong with pursuing women or dating women. There's nothing wrong with any of that. The problem is when you give your politics over because of your romantic pursuits. That is just, it's unconscionable. Really, it's unconscionable. That's become normal in our society. The feminist movement is the most successful political movement in recent American history. By far, it's not even close. By far. The most successful movement in recent American history. Rob would only buy the American First movement that we're holding together, by a thread. Holding this movement together by a thread. We better understand that. Because the mob rule is at our door. The mob rule is at our door. And some of us have a good idea of what happens next. And some of us have a good concept of a post-civilized America. Some of us will be ready. I hope more people than not are getting ready, getting prepared. The best thing to be is prepared. We hope for the best, we prepare for the worst. The worst case scenario is this country devolves into full-blown civil war. A post-civilized America. That's the worst case scenario. The best case scenario is we just start to do things with some logic. And the logical thing to do is stop letting women lead. That's logical. When you let women lead, it's like all these women I see with cats. They let their cat go on outside, and, they leave the window open, and cat's perched up in the window. You can tell I've, had my rounds with some pretty wild liberal women. So I know it's from experience. It's not conjecture. It's not an opinion. This is an academic. Okay? This is firsthand experience. And you pull up to her house, and she's got like a cat in the window. That's the first sign you should turn around and go back home. But okay, cats are cool. I don't trust them. But, hey, if you like cats, you like cats. I got it. But they let their cats just kind of roam around outside and come and go as they please. And they think that's cool. They like be a part of the wild in some mystic, bohemian fantasy they have going on that you become a part of. And little do they know, cats, they end up with these parasites, and their owners end up with these parasites in their brain. It's just like Alex Jones trying to tell you guys about the atrazine in the water, and it turned the frogs gay. People are like, that's crazy. And all of a sudden you look up and, what do you know? There's too much atrazine in the water. Turns frogs gay. Wow. It's the same thing with cats. I get the same sense with cats. I don't mean to make a segment about cats, but it's an example. It's like these women are losing their minds. Hand over fist, losing their minds. And it scares me that none of them notice they have the same look. They have the same look and they have the same tone of voice. They have the same philosophy about life. But more scary, they have the same look. So why do you all look the same? Why do you all dress up in the hipster goth, pink, purple, green hair, borderline satanic symbolism, like the Billie Eilish's? Don't you all notice that you're it's like you're part of some interconnected global cult that doesn't even have any central organization? It's completely metaphysical. Completely metaphysical. It makes it really scary. Probably the most scary thing is the subconscious connection of satanic women all around the world with no organization whatsoever. Purely metaphysical. Purely spiritual. And that's what we're in a fight against. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. When you see a Native American woman from Minnesota, a professor from the University of Minnesota, say, we need to be dismantling the United States, the heteropatriarchy. I just think to myself, in what world? In what world is this even appropriate to say? In what world is it even appropriate to think, let alone say? We need to dismantle the United States. You live here. You live here. And, not to be rude, but a lot of you Native Americans or indigenous people are a long way from knowing how to live on the land yourselves. Let's just be honest. A lot of modernization, ran through the ranks of some of these Native American tribes and reservations too. That's why you own casinos. There's nothing more modern than a casino. There's nothing more modern than a casino resort. So don't act like you guys are living in the backwoods of your ancestral land anymore. And what happens when the United States is dismantled? Where are people going? What are people doing in the post-United States of America? Because you don't even look in shape enough to walk a good 2-3 miles on a treadmill. It all sounds good. It all sounds good in a vacuum. It sounds good in their head. That's the problem with a lot of these postmodern liberal women. Their ideas sound good in their head. And because men want to get laid, they never stop them and go, that's a stupid idea. Where'd you get that from? A book of bad ideas? I'm one of those guys. I'll just tell a woman straight up, you're stupid, dumb, retarded. Oh, sorry, I said a bad word. Saw a couple of evangelical Christian conservatives on Facebook telling me I shouldn't use the word retarded. Are you retarded? Of course I should. There's no other way to describe it. There's no other way to describe a political philosophy that says everybody should be able to come live in our country and we should pay them. We should pay you all to come live here, huh? The murderers, the rapists, the drug dealers, the human traffickers, the predators, pedophiles, we should let them all come live here. We should rehabilitate them. We can fix them. Some shit you just can't fix. Some things you just can't fix. Liberal white woman, yuppie leftist white woman from the art quarter, from the art district. And there's an art district in every city. You see what I mean? They all live in the same area. It's weird. You drive through the area, it smells like marijuana and kitty litter. Sorry, yuppie woman from the art district. We're not going to let all these people come live in our country. We're not going to let them come live in our communities. Where were your protests when the illegal foreign invader raped and murdered a young black woman and threw her on the side of the highway? Where were your protests? Where were your protests when an illegal foreign invader was drinking and got behind the wheel, killed a young black woman and her daughter? Where were you? You were nowhere to be found. It's not about black people. It's not about black women. It's not about women. It's not even about the LGBTQ. Although you do get a sick and perverse satisfaction of turning a man into a woman, and we know what that stems from, your hatred of men, the heteropatriarchy. That's why they're saying the quiet part out loud. It's not about history. It's not about what happened to the Native Americans. It's not about what happened to the natives in this country. It's about the heteropatriarchy. Do you mean to tell me, and just as a matter of inquiry, is transgenderism big in the Native American community? I haven't met one transgender Native American in my entire life. Honestly, God, I've never met a transgender Native American. So, what connection is there between the plight of the LGBTQ and the Native Americans? It's complete non sequitur. They have a non sequitist political philosophy. And these people are professors at our universities, our prestigious historic universities, the University of Minnesota, one of the Big 10 collegiate institutions in this country, 60,000 people. 60,000 people, the University of Minnesota. And they want to dismantle the United States, the heteropatriarchy. Can we all agree what the once and for all, can we all just take a step back from all the other things and say, you know what? Come on, guys, really, what are we doing here? I mean, how long are we going to let this go on? How long are we going to let this go on? We're going to dismantle the heteropatriarchy, all straight men? What kind of sick and twisted? It's just, you know what? I don't know. I'm probably just a toxic man, suffers from a severe case of toxic masculinity. Maybe that's the case. But I'm a really nice guy if you get to know me. I really am. Just don't cross America. Don't cross America. Don't cross Christ. Don't try to undo the natural order of things. You can be as sinful as you want in the natural order of things, but don't try and undo the natural order and force it upon us. That's not going to work. I can do a lot of things for you. I can be very, they say, very tolerant. I'm a very tolerant individual. I'm open to your point of view. If you think that the horoscopes and you know, the numerologists have a better take on life in the world and are more wise than let's say, St. Thomas Aquinas or Aristotle, Jesus Christ himself, fine, let me hear it. Let me hear what you're working with. Might be some good you know, insights in those fortune cookies. I'm all good with that. People can think what they want and they can say what they want. You have a right to say you want to dismantle the heteropatriarchy. It's just hard for me to believe that any broad swath of the American populace would vote for that political worldview. And you wonder how we got a Jeffrey Epstein. And see, and that's what I worked my way up to here over the course of this hour and a half, is the way you get a Jeffrey Epstein is when you neuter your society. The predators proliferate. The predators proliferate when you neuter your society. When you strip them in of all their masculinity, all their courage, their natural born courage, their biological instincts. When you, when you culturate natural masculine instincts out of the men in your population, you end up with these weird people in the intelligence community who would even have the idea that an international human trafficking pedophile ring is a viable option for intelligence gathering or blackmail. That's what happens when you don't have real men to say, you know what, if in order to defeat the Chinese or the Russians or the Muslim Brotherhood or Mossad, and whatever future conflicts are to unfold, we have to resort to international pedophile human trafficking, and we'll die. We'll die on our sword. We'll die on our cross. Unfortunately, our intelligence community selects for people who are socio and psychopathic, or have, I'm sorry, the official guidances have sociopathic and psychopathic tendencies. What's the difference? What's the difference, really? So we all have sociopathic tendencies, do we? I don't know. Some of this psychology is a little pseudo-intellectual, if you ask me. I don't really consider myself to be a sociopath. I'm capable of violence, that's for sure. But I'm not sociopathic about the violence. I'm remorseful, even if I have to do violence. And there is a difference. There's a distinction to make between people who have sacred honor, even in the context of war and violence. People who are sociopathic have no remorse for the violence they do or the violence they may have to do. That's what the Epstein saga is an example of. An intelligence community, intelligence agencies all around the world who have lost their sacred honor. And the cold trail down, losing your sacred honor, of course you end up at sexual perversion of the most unimaginable manifestations. Of course. It's not by accident. It's not a coincidence. It's not happenstance that you would land there. It's like take a right turn down Dumbsville and you end up in, a sexual cult is what they ended up in. And it is. The intelligence community is a sex cult. That's what we're finding out. That's what we're finding out here. The intelligence community is an international sex cult. Some weird, freaky people with too much power. That's the point. Some weird, freaky people with too much power. You can be a weird, freaky person. Don't get me again. If you're 6'5" and you have hair on your back and you like to wear a spaghetti dress on the weekends, hey, you're an American citizen. Just don't think I'm going to call you a woman. And don't think I'm going to hold back my laughter when you walk into the restaurant there on a Saturday evening, with a pink spaghetti strap halter top, a tutu, and you got hair on your back and your knuckles. I'm going to laugh at you. And if you want to fight, then I'm all game for that too. Hopefully it's not a homoerotic fight, but I'm all game for that too. Just call the balls and strikes, man. We just need to start calling the balls and strikes on these things. We can fix this country. It's not all doom and gloom. We can fix this country. We can fix this country tomorrow. But Amy Klobuchar ain't going to fix this country. AOC ain't going to fix this country. The Chuck Schumers of the world aren't going to fix this country. The Mitch McConnells of the world aren't going to fix the country. President Trump, flaws and all, the credit you got to give him is at least he's putting up a fight. And I know people are going to say, well, what about that? Look, the border's closed, crime is down, the economy is up. The border's closed, crime is down, the economy is up. Iran's the next thing on the horizon. Are we going to get sucked into another greater Israel endeavor? I hope not. I sure hope not. We're going to lay down some rolling thunder like we did on the nuclear sites. Hey, okay. We saw already that is an overtaxing. Again, I'll say it again like I said the last time we did. I don't even know. I don't like seeing us pull the limits, and we didn't do it this time, but as a principle, I didn't like when we pulled the limits out of the South China Sea. Our national moral enemy is the CCP. Our number one priority is the South China Sea. We are an Indo-Pacific power. We are not an Atlantic power. Let the Europeans, and I said this about Israel already, let the Europeans protect Israel. Let the Europeans defend Israel. Let the Europeans, backstop Israel. It's their deal. It's their deal. First of all, the majority of the Israelis there are European in descent. They're European Jews, most of them. And it was Europe that forced them out of Europe in the first place. Let them pay the toll. What does that have to do with us? What does that have to do with us? Because a bunch of evangelical Christians are more interested in, more involved in Israel's politics than they are our own. If not, the Jeffrey Epsteins of the world, you wouldn't have allowed the Patriot Act. You would have allowed all of this surveillance state and intelligence community, nonsense to transgress your rights all along the way. The people who you elected to represent you, who smiled in your face, who smiled and waved with their stupid little lapel pins and their silk stockings and tie. They smiled in your face and they told you how Christian they were. They told you how conservative they were, but what did they conserve? They sure as hell didn't conserve your privacy. They sure as hell didn't uphold Christian morals or ethics in the intelligence community or the military. What did they conserve? Under their rule, under their tutelage, we have the greatest international human trafficking pedophile ring in known human history. That's what we got. You gotta check your ranks. I'm talking to evangelical Christians too. Don't sit here and try and act like this Jeffrey Epstein thing has nothing to do with Israel. It has everything to do with Israel. Everything. You're watching the Alex Jones Show here on Sunday Night Live, InfoWars. I'm your guest host, Royce White. I'm here in the belly of the beast, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Failure of masculinity has led to the crisis of femininity. We're going to talk about it a little bit more on the other side of the break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
When not cut out, to die with certain facts that have to be kept hidden. That's fine. The desire of our government to destroy people who have no idea what they've tripped over, because our government isn't good enough to keep its own secrets. This is an abomination. You cannot destroy your A-team.
Who are you referring to when you say people are being destroyed? Are you referring to people like yourself?
You know, if you look at, for example, Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein conducted a conference called Confronting Gravity. I don't know who Jeffrey Epstein was, but I would certainly bet money that he was a product of at least one or more elements of the intelligence community.
The CIA, the FBI?
Those are ours. Right? Department of Homeland Security has some of this stuff. Geospatial intelligence has some of this. You know, it's a large network. I'm talking about people like David Grush. I'm talking about people potentially like David Fravor. I'm talking about people like Jake Barber. I'm talking about scientists like Leo Szilard. Imagine if Leo Szilard didn't know that the Manhattan Project was going on, or Jack Raper, a journalist who broke his story. These people all think that they're doing their jobs. I desperately want to know why Jeffrey Epstein knew so much about my work. And I want to know why he was connected to my graduate program. I was in the Harvard Mathematics Department. Jeffrey Epstein was absolutely connected to the Harvard Math Department. I want to know why.
How was he connected to that department?
You're pushing me to say things I'm not going to say.
But I'm curious. I'm not trying to push you.
I understand, but I'm just not going to do it. I'm saying that anybody who wants to...
You say he's connected to the Math
To
department?
the Harvard Mathematics Department.
How did you know he was connected?
You can Google it. You can Google it right now. This is not... I can point at all sorts of stuff that's hidden in plain sight.
So I'll take your word for it. And the assertion I'm picking up on is that Jeffrey Epstein was planted in your world to keep...
I'm not saying he's blamed. I don't know who he was. I don't know who ran him. He certainly was not a financier in any standard sense.
Really?
That was a cover story, yes.
The way that we know Jeffrey Epstein in the UK especially is just this guy who was this rich guy who had this island, who brought people there and then did these despicable things.
Disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, that's what we... That's the story.
Disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein. It's all perseveration. He was a disgraced financier. What kind of a financier? Disgraced one. What was his name? Oh, he was disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein. They perseverate that into your mind so that you auto-complete that in your LLM life. Do you believe that that's what Jeffrey Epstein was?
You met him.
Yeah. I
Was he
can
a
tell
disgraced
that.
financier?
He wasn't a financier the day I met him.
What was he?
He was a weird guy who didn't seem to know a lot about currency trading. Claiming to run a multi-billion-dollar FX hedge fund.
When you say a weird guy, what made him weird?
Same stuff I've said on Chris Williams. I'm not going to go back through that. Just my point is you're getting a different interview, right? So what I'm trying to get at is Jeffrey Epstein knew a tremendous amount about my work when nobody knew anything about my work. And he had a pipeline into me that I didn't understand, which is that he was connected to my graduate program. And you can check out the conference called Exploring Gravity.
And host a physical workshop called Confronting Gravity.
Confronting Gravity, that's right.
In March 2006.
Yeah, what is Jeffrey Epstein? Jeffrey Epstein is very focused on gravity.
Was it a gravity conference?
Yeah.
It was about gravity?
Yeah.
What the fuck was he doing talking about bloody gravity? He was a financier.
It was very important to get Nobel laureates and some of the smartest people on earth to come to the Virgin Islands and talk about gravity. Stephen Hawking was there, David Gross was there, Lawrence Krauss was there, Lisa Randall was there, right before his conviction. And I'm telling you, he was very focused on the Harvard Math Department. And he knew all about me in ways that he wasn't supposed to.
I have to be clear. I have to be clear on my understanding of what you're saying. From what I understand, you can say Stephen McGrath, whatever, but I just have to, because you've opened up a curiosity hole in my mind, so I'm trying to fill it, even if it's a conversation I have because
I'll just evade you.
Fine, yeah, you're within the right to evade me. And I hold the right to ask, which is, what I'm hearing is you believe, I'm just going to say how I think it is, what I'm hearing is you believe that Jeffrey Epstein was not a financier, he was planted in some way to...
He was a construct, is what I said.
He was a construct. In some way to mess with the progression of physics.
Jeffrey Epstein, apparently, I think I'll tell you what I said. When I met him, the meeting was over, I immediately called my wife. And I said, I've just met a construct. She said, what do you mean? I said, this person is not who they claim to be. Somebody has constructed this human being to be something that they are not, which is a hedge fund genius. Somebody who could understand the euro and the yen like nobody else. Bullshit. Not true. I believe that whoever constructed Jeffrey Epstein was running multiple different programs through the same thing, having put in a large initial investment. It wasn't about one thing. If you build a mall, you don't just have clothing stores in the mall. You have a food court in the mall, right? You have jewelry in the mall.
Bring me out.
Jeffrey Epstein was a construct of something.
That was the clip. You can go and watch the rest of the interview yourself. And look, am I saying that what Eric is laying out there is the truth? Am I going to say what Eric's real involvement was with Epstein? I can't say any of those things. But what I can say is I'm doing my best to gather as much information as possible because I do think the Jeffrey Epstein thing is important. It's just so convoluted that I think it's naive and somewhat reckless to jump to conclusions about it. And that's nationwide. I mean, that's worldwide. This is a worldwide issue. How do I know? A 34-year-old man from, Podunk, Minnesota. Who could even imagine? Conference on gravity? What are we even talking about here? An international human trafficking pedophile. Supposed to be a stock trader. He's holding a conference on gravity. What are we even talking about here? I have no clue. I have no clue. I'm still trying to gather the information. And I promise you, when I've gathered enough information, it's like I was saying about the women. I'm pretty sure about that. I'm almost certain that we have a problem that we're letting too many women lead this country and maybe society writ large. I'm very confident about that from personal experience. It's like in my own life, in my own community, in my own state. But when we start talking about espionage at this level, all we can rely on is the information that comes out of the same belly of the beast that we want to dismantle and distrust. That's a very awkward position for us to be in as the American people. I find myself in an awkward position because even here I'm reading some of these files and I'm going, well, how do I know which files are real and which ones aren't? I mean, as if there can be fake files in the Epstein files. Of course there could. Of course there could. That's not an out for anybody in the files. I'm just saying, if you let yourself get so upside down with the names that are mentioned in the files, you lose sight of the fact that there was something going on here that I don't even think many people in the intelligence community have a good grasp of. This is my honest to God take on the thing. Jeffrey Epstein and this entire operation is much deeper, much darker than we could possibly imagine. And the low-hanging fruit, and I say the low-hanging fruit because at the end of the day, pedophilia is a grave injustice and sadistic thing to do. But it would appear to me that it was a ritualistic piece of a much bigger plot and agenda for the rest of us. A ritualistic piece of a much bigger plot and agenda for the rest of us. And the bigger plot is what we have to be concerned about. That's just the way it is. And people can use this like anything else, and here it's another way for us to distract ourselves, more or less. distract. Like I said, the elections still aren't secure. Oh, we're going to pass the SAVE Act tomorrow. Okay, well, early voting's already begun. Early voting's already begun in some states. We're burning daylight here. No, I think the executive order's coming down, and God bless, again, the president showing that, even if you disagree completely, you have to agree that at least for whatever set of circumstances finds us in the position we're in today, in this timeline, President Trump is willing to upset the apple cart. And I'll say this as well. And this takes me to the very limits of what I can articulate without having wrote it down and kind of mapped it out. I don't use any notes. I don't have any notes here because the truth really shouldn't need notes. But the higher level you get, when you talk about existential reality, metaphysics, philosophy, it gets complex in there. But there is a real question that we struggle with about free will and predetermination. That is sort of fundamental to all of our questions, all of the answers. The way we live, more pertinent to what I'm talking about right now, the way we think about things, the way we think about individuals. I think we look at individuals as on a path, and the end of that path is already predetermined. See, we talk about people, and I say this as an olive branch to our fellow countrymen and women on the left. Your path is not predetermined in my mind. You could easily wake up tomorrow and say, you know what? Maybe we should have a border. Perfect. Now we're getting somewhere. Great. You can wake up tomorrow and go, you know what? Men really can't get pregnant. We should probably just dead that noise. Great. Your path isn't predetermined is my point. Nobody's path is predetermined. And I think even on the right, we're getting caught up in this mania where President Trump does something we like or don't like, and all of a sudden it's like, well, that's it. That's the end. So much for it's like, come on, guys, seriously? We better pray. And if you think that President Trump is compromised or that he may not be in full control of his White House, that there may be forces inside this White House that are subversive, that are not in full support of the mandate we voted in, you better pray. You better pray that President Trump finds the discernment to steer this ship in the right direction. Because I guarantee you this, no amount of nihilism, no amount of cynicism is going to save this country. I'll say it again. You better pray he finds the discernment to steer this country in the right direction, because no amount of nihilism or cynicism is going to save us now. The only thing that can save us now are citizens with some national honor and sacred honor who stand at the ready to do their civic duty, to do their patriotic duty, led by leaders who still have sacred honor. Or maybe even who remember sacred honor, who will pivot to sacred honor at this nation's most dire moments. And that's what we have to pray for. That's what we have to hope for. That is where the hope is. That's where the hope lies. That is the story, the story of the evolution of mankind. At each turn, mankind has faced pivotal choices with great moral and ethical implications, with great spiritual implications. Sometimes we rose to the occasion, sometimes we haven't. Sometimes we did. The founding of this country, we rose to the occasion. Abolishing slavery. Another time, we rose to that occasion. 1913, failure. Failure. Inception of the Federal Reserve, failure. World War I, World War II, failures. Post-World War II, Democratic Liberal Order, Cold War with Russia, failure. Vietnam War, failure. The internet. To be decided. To be decided. Artificial intelligence, to be decided. Great questions in front of us, and there are no easy answers. But an answer can never be for us to revert to the same sort of nihilism that we see on the far left. The same sort of nihilism, because you might as well be the indigenous woman that we showed at the beginning in the cold open. You might as well be her. Let's just dismantle the United States. And there are people on the right who say some other things. They say it from a different street corner. They say it from a different perspective, a different vantage. But it's the same net result. You don't believe in a country, and more importantly, you don't believe that it can be fixed. You don't believe that we can actually have a society that functions and works. Of course we can. Of course we can. Don't let these satanic pedophiles discourage you from what we all know is possible. It's possible for us to have a functioning society. It's possible for us to have a peaceful and prosperous, productive society. We just have to choose it. We have to believe that free will. And yes, here again, I find it, a huge concern with my own Christian community. Maybe we let Satanists take this country over. Maybe we let Satanists and communists take this country over because pastors and preachers make more money off of telling you how to live your life on the road to revelations than they do in telling you how to be an active Christian at the salt of the earth. Maybe it's much easier for them to collect your money and wear, $1,000 snakeskin shoes and travel around in limousines and private jets. Maybe it's much easier for them to rape you of your money in that framework of human existence. Because if there's no such thing as sin, if there's no such thing as free will, then there's really no such thing as sin. If there's no such thing as sin, which a lot of Protestant Christians believe, hey, you believe in Jesus Christ, he already died for your sins, there is no sin. And that is a seismic divide in our Christian community between the Protestants and the Catholics. And the Catholics, you got a problem with pedophilia as well in the deep church. And we find ourselves, in our own sort of Spider-Man meme here in the Christian community. But one thing we know for certain is Dr. Octopus is on the way. Dr. Octopus he's working. He's not stopping in the whole Spider-Man meme. He's acting out his agenda. We better get real clear, real quick. Do we all just want to stick our heads in the sand and wait for the afterlife? Fine. If that's the way you go about things, I don't know. It's just never been my way. I'm a fighter. I'll fight intellectually. I'll fight physically. I'll fight until my dying breath. I'll take a good fight. I'll take a bad fight. Give me a bad fight. Give me a 2-on-1. Give me a 3-on-1. Give me the deep state. When I first decided to get into politics, I could have ran in a Republican district. I could have moved to a different state and I'd be in the House already. Give me Ilhan Omar. Okay? Republicans didn't want me to run against Ilhan Omar in general. Fine. Give me Amy Klobuchar. All right. Tom Emmer didn't want to endorse me. He must like Amy Klobuchar more than he likes good old America First Royce White. I get it. He's got more Israel money coming out of his gills than a fish has water coming out of his gills. Fine. Give me the entire Minnesota Democratic Mafia. Billy the Beast. I'll take them all on. I'll take them all on by myself. Doesn't matter. Thank God I got some help from the great Mike Lindell. Thank God Mike Lindell had the sacred honor to jump in here and say, you know what, I'm going to run for God. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate the help, sir. Thank you for getting involved, man. Thank you for providing some backup here. because I feel like I'm in a nightmare. Rhinos to the left of me, rhinos to the right, stuck in the middle with you. It's going to be a dogfight this primary. Spread the word far and wide. Spread the word. There's not a good example of our Christian crisis in this country. Then the NRSC, again, putting a pro-choice Michelle Tafoya is a slap in the face to the entire Christian base. And it's a concession to the left. It's a concession to the communists. And does that surprise us? Does it surprise us that Mitch McConnell and the boys, would pull a stunt like that? That's what Tim Scott is. That's what Steve Daines was. They're running dogs for Mitch McConnell and the CCP. And they're subversive. They are. Maybe they'll start a Senate subcommittee investigation into me. Go ahead, boys. Go ahead. Tap my phone. I said it already. You can't blackmail me because my naked pictures are a sight to behold. Release the files, please. Release the files. Maybe I should release my own files. Maybe that's the only way the mainstream media will even cover me. Because when you talk about the Federal Reserve and fractional reserve banking, the mainstream media, they seem to be toned. They seem to be deaf. They seem to be bad of hearing. You can't talk about fractional reserve banking. You can't talk about post-World War II Democrat liberal order. You can't talk about globalism. You can't talk about the dangers of a proliferated surveillance state or intelligence apparatus. You can't talk about the Five Eyes. You can't talk about trade agreements, basic economics, trade agreement. You can't talk about trade. You can either cut for illegal immigrants, unfettered, unlimited illegal immigration, or you can do the race bait. That's what they put the microphone in front of. Maybe if I just release my own files, my own beautiful naked images, I will make them real artistic. I'll do it. Remember they used to do those Sports Illustrated, those beautiful Sports Illustrated spreads, and every year there was like a man who was like, made of brawn, muscular, but there was like a naked photo shoot in Sports Illustrated of a man every year. Maybe I need to do something like that. I don't know. But one thing I can say for sure is that we've reached a point in this country where we better start picking real leaders real fast. Of course, we're going to look up, and President Xi and the boys are going to have their fist so far up our rear end, they'll be working us like a puppet. They're already, it's metaphorically. I mean, literally. We're already a tributary state. And they look at us as a tributary state. We don't make a huge turn here. We're going to become a real slave state. And they won't have to make landfall. No. The Mamdanis and the Jacob Fry's mayor, Mamdani and Jacob Fry are the running dog for the CCP, the same way Tim Scott is the running dog for Mitch McConnell. They're all working to the same end, the fall of this country. We can stand up. There is hope. The hope is stop letting all these women lead. We can't be a nation of eunuchs. Stop letting them neuter us. Another episode. We'll see you next Sunday. God bless. God bless America.